There everyone, and welcome back. This is our second video. I hope you're all doing fine. And last time we talked about a particular type of task that you might get in the Abitur. That was a comment question. And in a couple of days, I'd like to get back to topics like that, looking at specific formats and types of task in the Abitur, for example, analysis, comparison, and things like that. But I'd like to take the opportunity with this video and with the next video as well, maybe to look at our general fundamental basic topic for the Abitur, which is of course the ambiguity of belonging, the Sternchen-Thema, as we call it. And I think today what we'll do is look at the idea of belonging in general. What does belonging mean? Why is belonging important? And then tomorrow we'll look a little bit more specifically at the idea of belonging in our two works, Gran Torino and Crooked Letter. So let's start off with maybe trying to define what belonging means. And if you look at dictionaries, you get a whole range of meanings. One of those meanings really doesn't interest us at all in this context. It's the idea of belonging in the sense of ownership. So if you say this car belongs to me, but that's something quite separate from belonging in the sense that interests us, which is kind of membership of a larger group of people. So if we take this idea of membership, then we can say that we belong to fairly small groups, like family groups, for example, moving on to very large groups. So a class at school or a club. You can belong to a religion, you can belong to a particular culture or ethnicity or to a country, patriotism, for example. You can even say that you belong to an international or supranational organization. So some people would say that they feel a sense of belonging towards Europe or the European Union or even towards the human race in general. So if we look at these definitions of belonging, you already get a sense of their importance. And if we look at our pyramid, Maslow's pyramid that we've talked about so often from 1943, and we can see quite nicely why belonging is such an important concept. So if you look at the pyramid, belonging is right there, bang in the middle, suggesting that if you don't have this sense of belonging, then you can't move any further up the pyramid towards feelings of self-esteem. For example, there's no feeling right in yourself unless you have this sense of belonging. Let me give you an example of that from school. So something you get quite often, particularly in lower classes, is the idea of bullying. And what is bullying? Well, bullying is excluding someone from a group that he or she would like to belong to. So a particular pupil would like to belong to a small peer group of friends or would like to fit in their class, and the bully or the bullies prevents them from doing that. And by doing that, the bully takes away their self-esteem or prevents them from getting a feeling of self-esteem, which is why it's so dramatic and so tragic, particularly for fairly young kids of that age. And you can also see the importance of a sense of belonging right now. In what I'll call the era of the coronavirus. You can see on the one hand how important a feeling of belonging and the solidarity that goes along with that is becoming. We need the solidarity of healthy people to look after those who are ill or old and are not able to look after themselves. We also need to have the feeling that we as a society, as a country, are effectively fighting against the coronavirus. Indeed, that humanity in general is fighting against the virus. So we can see that belonging is central there. It really is of the essence. On the other hand, all the structures, or many of the structures that give us belonging, are under threat or disappearing. So families, in terms of the family, which is the basic structure of belonging, well, we're being told that small children shouldn't be looked after by their grandparents anymore. Or look at school, which for many young children, young adults, is basically the social focus of their life. Well, schools have closed, and that's denying kids a sense of belonging. So you can see really in all spheres of life how important the idea of belonging is. Now, our topic isn't just about belonging itself, it's about the idea that belonging is also something ambiguous. Now, why is belonging ambiguous. You might think it's a fairly straightforward thing. I would like to suggest 3 reasons why belonging isn't as straightforward as we might think. First of those reasons would be, I think, what is a basic human impulse that we all have. On the one hand, yes, to belong, to be part of a group, but on the other hand, also to be individuals, to be something special, to be something separate. And again, if you look at children, particularly 10 to 15-year-olds, something like that, they have an incredible desire to be seen as normal on the one hand, to fit in their class and in their peer group. But on the other hand, they also want to be something particular, special, different from the others. And I don't think those 2 things necessarily exclude each other, but they do lead to a certain idea of ambiguity as far as this sense of belonging is concerned. Second way in which belonging, I think, is ambiguous is that you can have different identities, different senses of belonging. And some of those identities will be complementary. For example, there's nothing particularly ambiguous about, on the one hand, having a sense of belonging towards your family and towards your country, maybe, or to belong to a certain religion and to belong to a certain political party. But it becomes interesting and particularly ambiguous when we get the feeling that these 2 identities are in some way exclusive of each other. So, for example, you could have a clash between your religious identity and your national identity. Which of the 2 is more important for you? Or, and we'll talk about this in the context of Tao and Su in particular, dual national identities. Yeah? Tao and Su are both American and Hmong, and at the same time they're neither. They can't reconcile these 2 identities easily. So again, there we have a sense of ambiguity. And the third reason why I would say that belonging can be something ambiguous is what we talked about last time when looking at the comment question. This idea that the harder you try to belong, the more difficult it becomes. So it's not just something that you can strive for and you achieve it. It's something, I think, either you have it or you don't up to a certain point. And indeed, as we saw when talking about that question, someone like Larry, the harder he tries, indeed, the more difficult it is for him to get this sense of belonging. So that was a little overview of what belonging means, why belonging is important, and why it can be seen as something ambiguous. Tomorrow we'll look at some more specific details. I shall see you then. It's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from, no, there he is. No, where is he? I can't point behind me. Here, my friend, the owl back there. Maybe we can try and give him some kind of name. I'm in favor of calling him Towel, which is a mixture of Tao and owl, but maybe that's a bit sad.